It's Dieter and Jake. We're handling the spine. We're going to the most important position that the 49ers need to fill in this year's off season. They got to get it done. They don't have options at defensive tackle, Jake. Luckily, we're here for them and we're here for you to talk about some defensive tackles.
Folks, this is the spot. This is the spot we mentioned in training camp last year that we said, I don't know if they have a defensive tackle room that's going to function. Right. The 49ers said, don't worry about it. And even if Javon Hargrave was healthy, he would not have solved the issues they had. They just didn't they don't have, I think, the right philosophy at defensive tackle, and they need to reevaluate it this offseason. Don't have guys that can hold up in the run game. And I'm sorry, but you don't get to rush the passer and just have guys that shoot up field hyper aggressively until you can actually hold your own gap. So that's the priority, and we are looking for guys who can do more than just hold the gap, but that is the sort of the foundation we're starting with.
Listen, we can get into a large conversation about the merits of the wide nine, but the fact remains you need someone who can hold the A gap. They haven't had it. I'm not even asking for B gap. I just want the A gap to be held. I want somebody, and again, we're not asking for a two-gapper. You're not asking for Al Woods to come out of retirement or the next Al Woods, or anybody like that. You're not looking for a Vince Wilfork who can take on two men with one body. You're just looking for some... You're just looking for somebody who's not going to get pushed off the screen when you watch the All-22, Jake.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. And so we started last episode with free agency.
Yeah.
I think we're going to flip it this time. We're doing our Shark Tank here, right?
Okay. Sicko Tank. Sell it to the sickos, Jake. You want to go into the NFL draft and solve the 49ers' biggest problem. Where are we going?
We're going to Texas, and we're not going to Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins is a guy that, some people have a top 10 defensive tackle. We are going to a guy named Vernon Broughton. And this guy, folks,
wow.
This guy, Vernon Broughton, let me just tell you, I cannot be more excited about him. He's like not even on any boards. The highest I've seen him, genuinely, is ESPN's board where he's the 17th defensive tackle.
No.
And I cannot wrap my head around it. He's like 32nd on some random NFL draft board somewhere else. Folks, he's not on some boards. And again, it's just really early in the process, but this is why it's fun. Let me show you some tape of Vernon Broughton, folks.
Okay.
This
is a hell of a flag plant early.
So, fella, number 45, watch him go. This is against Michigan. Stout. Oh, he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere.
Against an elite offensive line.
Just stout. Just holds up. He does his job. Is that his hands, like he's a real threat for strip sacks. I mean, no man at his size should be doing this. No man at his size should be doing this. Look at those hands.
Ooh.
Down he goes.
Get on the ground.
He is strip sack from number 45. You watch him, gets around. Oh, his hands, he's got some wiggle to him. Incredible. He's just got like a nose for the ball when he gets after it. Like, look, attacks the ball.
Wow,
Howard
play.
Recovers it. 3 guys on him. We got one last clip for you, folks. One last clip. Ooh.
Bam.
Ooh. He coming.
Remind everyone, Vernon Broughton, Texas.
Vernon Broughton from Texas. Folks,
what do we got on spec for Vernon Broughton?
So, folks, this is a guy who fundamentally, is just a good all-around player. He's got a solid base. He can hold up in the run game. Some people view him as more of a run game threat. When I see him, I see a guy who's got good pad level, who's strong, who has very, very quick hands and wiggle and a little bit of burst off the ball that he probably shouldn't have at his size.
Right.
I just see a guy that I think is it depends on how he tests, but I kind of think he should shoot up draft boards a little bit. He's got a little bit of Tyre Tart in him, a little bit of a stumpy Kobe Turner, not quite as fast as Kobe Turner, but I just think this guy has incredible strength, incredible hands, a wiggle to be able to run the passer, but the foundation to be able to hold his gap and hold up in the run game. And the fact that he's not on boards, I know it's early in the process, but I would feel comfortable drafting him in 3rd round today. That's how convinced I am on him. He's a really, really, really good player. And obviously, testing will determine a lot of how this goes. But like, even if he tests poorly, I don't care. I've seen what I've seen. He's an NFL player.
How high do you think he could go? Like you're as high as anybody on the planet outside of perhaps the Broughton family and maybe Steve Sarkisian on this guy.
Yep.
I see no reason to disagree with you on any of this. That was really fun to watch. How high could he go? If you had your druthers, what's the earliest you would take him?
I think it depends. If he tests like crazy well at the combine, like second round. I don't think he's ever going to jump up to be a first round pick because he probably won't have he doesn't have measurables like size wise like an Alfred Collins does, and he's not one hand driving people into the ground. Like there's some other guys like Kenneth Grant, Michigan, Deion Walker out of Kentucky, guys who are like giants and who just move people out of the way and have some really flashy clips that Broughton doesn't have that sort of size. Right. And so that I think will be limiting. That said, I think there's like a fundamental, like, let's spin the wheel on those guys when like Kenneth Grant might not be a good player. Like he could be the best defensive tackle ever.
Right.
Or he could be a complete like worse than Javon Kinlaw type.
That's how I put it. He could be Chris Jones or he could be Javon Kinlaw. Literally, you can find clips that show you both.
So Broughton is a guy that I think is more like, I think he's got a very high floor, and I think he's got a decently high ceiling. I don't think he's got a high ceiling as a Graham or a Grant or like Deion Walker or some of those guys, just because of that size. To show you. But I do think like it's hard for me to imagine him not being a somewhat productive player in the league.
He looks like a rotational player immediately. Perhaps someone who can start for you and make a serious impact. And you think about defensive tackles in the league. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a lot of guys with high pedigree, but a lot of the dudes who are stalwarts in this league, the guys who don't get a lot of run, but you don't run against them, not highly drafted players, right? There are some positions that just require football players. This guy's a football player. And I don't say that in any sort of a pejorative sense. He was a really fun watch there. The problem is that he isn't Walter Nolen, Jake. And Walter Nolen's a freak. There's just no simple way to put it. This is a guy who was a 5-star coming out, goes to Texas A&M. Ole Miss throws the bag at Walter Nolen to go and play south of Memphis. And I know that Ole Miss didn't have the season that they wanted to have, but he was worth every penny. And it would be great if I had video that could show that, but we don't. So just elite work here. Suffice it to say, you're not going to miss any of Walter Nolen's highlights because Walter Nolen is about to fly up the boards. There is some suggestion, and I think it's fair because he has a high motor, but sometimes he gets washed out a little bit. There is a suggestion that he isn't an elite defensive tackle prospect, that he shouldn't be a first-round pick. I disagree with it because the upside is so there, and I think that the biggest difference between the college game and the pro game is the amount of snaps you have to play. You're not running a rotation at defensive tackle the way that you do in the NFL when you're Walter Nolen and you got paid $5 million or whatever to play for Ole Miss. They're keeping your ass out there.
I watched him, and you're a little higher on him than I am, mostly because I was not in terms of like what his upside is or what he could be as a player, but in terms of like the thing the 49ers are lacking. And I do think like if you just try and literally plug the hole with Walter Nolen just as himself, like he's a little bit undersized. He's not as reliable to hold up and be able to, stand firm in a gap. But I do think he is a really just explosive athlete who can do a lot off the ball and really be dynamic. Like, I mean,
it just go,
super
and
fluid.
You talk about the burst off the line of scrimmage. It's second to none. He's raw to a degree, but you can't teach this kind of athleticism. This is what we talk about when we say 5-star talent. And it's not as if he's this unfinished product. It manifested against the best of the best and some of the best offensive lines in college football at Ole Miss this past year. It manifested at Texas A&M. That's why Ole Miss was willing to give him the bag. And he's going to test absolutely off the charts. And when the 49ers are sitting there at 11, they might think to themselves, oh, should we take him? Should we take him? I don't know. Maybe we move down 5 or 6 spots and we take him there. And I think that'd be foolish because I don't think he's going to make it to 15. I think that
we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I think that if we can make a prediction right now, Walter Nolen's combine scores are going to cut whatever his current draft grade is in half. And by that, I mean, if he was going to go at 20, he's going at 10. And if he was going at 40, he's going at 20. Whatever it is, you're going to cut it in half because the kind of size and speed that he displays, and he displays it, but that he will certainly show at the combine is going to have anyone who is analytically or, combine pilled.
I mean, listen, I have him behind Graham. He's the only guy I have, behind Graham right now. So I love the upside.
Do you have a first round grade on him?
Yeah, I think he's a late first rounder for me right now. Not late, more like 15 to 20.
Okay.
But we'll see as the process goes. I'm not sure I'd feel comfortable taking him at 11 from the 49ers perspective because, again, I'll watch more of him and see, but I don't think he solves a lot of your issues in the run game, and I think he's unpolished. I think he's super, super dynamic, and the upside is massive. And he is a competent enough player as it stands to make an impact, especially in the pass game. But I don't know if he's a reliable enough run defender to keep him out there. And then you're just I guess a young Javon Hargrave.
Well, kind of, in a way. And I think Javon Hargrave, as much as it didn't go well, deserves a lot of praise for some of the good games that he had. A lot of things fit around Javon Hargrave when he was in. This team needs a 3 technique. It also needs a 1 technique. And you're going to have to go and get multiple options, whether that's all in the draft, all in free agent, whatever. Here's an option for you. Here's an option for you. You need to get somebody who's going to help in the run game. Let me introduce you to Poona Ford. And if you weren't introduced to him, you saw him in the playoffs where he just had an absolutely massive game, even though the Chargers didn't, was on the field making plays against Houston. He was fantastic. I'm just going to pull up a clip here from his time against the Buccaneers. I mean, I thought he was immense in a lot of games this year. Really
He's
fits.
a big boy.
I mean, look at it. Get out of the way.
Oh, no one that wide should be
totally
getting to that run. That's Bijan Rob. Oh no, sorry, that's not Bijan Robinson.
No.
But it is Bucky Irving.
That's Bucky Irving, and he is right there at the mesh point, and they're trying to block him with ass.
I saw a number 7 running back, and I just
it's not going to work. Get on down there, little man. It is Poona Ford is 5'11". He weighs 320 pounds. He has a pretty impressive get off. And he is strong at the point of contact. He is so strong. This is a guy who you can see exactly why Jim Harbaugh loved him. And it's the reason that the 49ers should go and make him their 1 technique. He's not expensive. He'll be more expensive now after this season. And I'm sure the Chargers are very keen to keep him. But this is a guy who made $2.5 million last year. You can double his salary, and it's reasonable. And
I'm with you.
Now you have a 1 technique who is actually a pretty good pass rusher, all things considered, but you're just putting him in there on 1st and 2nd down to just be a big, wide boy who can engage, hold, and sometimes throw that dude to the side and get into the backfield. And when you have somebody like that, now Walter Nolen gets to do what he gets to do best, or what he can do best. And now it all starts to piece together. So in a lot of ways, I'm selling you Nolen, but I'm also selling you that you have to have a Ford. And if you have both of those guys doing what they do best, you have an interior of your offensive line or defensive line that now gives Nick Bosa a chance, that now gives Sam Aquanu a chance. Now your defensive line's looking good, and now your rotations can get back into a form. And now guess what? You might look like the goddamn 49ers defense again.
You got to eat your vegetables before you can have dessert. You got to finish your plate, and I think that's sound. I have no gripes about that plan. I think we have a little bit of a difference on how we value Nolen. But again, I'm solving the same issue with my free agent guy who I've talked about almost ironically.
Guess who?
Also seriously. It's Jeremiah Ledbetter. I honestly think, outside of his own family, I have probably mentioned the name Jeremiah Ledbetter more than anyone else out there.
That's right.
Over the last, 2-3 months. And I mean it.
I don't even think the Jacksonville Jaguars have mentioned his name as much as you have.
Nope. So we're gonna go. We got a few clips loaded up here. This is Ledbetter being stout in the run game here. This is against the Packers. He's a big boy, number 99, right over here, just there. He's gonna get fired up, and you're gonna see some other clips of him. And listen, he is just stout. He is so physical at the point of attack. You're not getting him. Oh God, I just love him.
If there's a line of scrimmage, it's not moving backwards.
And then this is against like the Cleveland Browns, right? So this is a Cleveland Browns team where they've got Ethan Posich, who's like a pretty decent center, and Petonio. And this is like a double team. And look at him. Look at him. Look at the force where these guys are double teaming, and he's just holding up.
It's just a man hug.
The 49ers do not have anyone on their team who can do that.
Oh, they're trying to slip under that crap.
Watch him.
I love you guys so much.
I mean, it's magnificent. I got more for you. Obviously, this is against the Minnesota Vikings. You watch the other angle here. Andy ends up making the tackle. I don't know what these jerseys are from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not sure how to feel about them, but we got watch.
I kind of like them.
I didn't say I
the UCF Knights.
I didn't say I hated them. I said I'm not sure how I feel about him. Watch him. He's right here. You're going to watch this man, and he's just so stout at the point of attack. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Look at what it does to the running back. Look, he's trying to go there, and you got number 22 who's coming through too. I think you got your wide receiver missing a block.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't do anything because Ledbetter is going to murder you. He's right there.
I'm going to go the other way.
He's closing that down. I got one more clip for you. I mean, he's just not going anywhere. I might have one more. This is the last clip. This is the last clip, I swear. Just, God, he's not going anywhere. Just a mountain of man. Just a mountain of man. Just.
How much does a mountain of man cost, Jake?
A mountain of man costs you very, very little.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Unless I've talked him up too much. But at the most he has ever earned in a single year, the most Jeremiah Ledbetter has ever earned in a single year was last year, I think. And it was $1.85 million.
I mean, good work if you can get it.
He's like a $2 million player where you guarantee, give him like $500,000 guaranteed, and then you can cut him for 1.5.
Just
whatever.
Guarantee the whole thing.
I don't care. I love him. I don't know. I don't even. If you're not sold by that, right. I don't care about the pass game. This is an early down guy who is going to make it extraordinarily hard for you to run the ball because he is stout as hell. That's what he does. He's going to stand in there. You can double team, and he will hold his ground in a way that the 49ers, I don't know if they've ever had somebody who's that stout aside from like DeForest Buckner.
But DeForest Buckner's a different animal, right? DeForest Buckner is just a mountain of a man, and so what he was able to do is just be bigger, stronger than anybody else. He was the mountain from Game of Thrones. Like, that's a big difference than having a big stumpy boy, which is what we're advocating for on the cheap. By the way, we're just looking for big stumpy boys.
Gonna get T-shirts made up that just say "Big Stumpy Boys."
Big stumpy boys. I mean,
and people will be like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And you'll be like, "You don't get it."
Don't kink shame us here. Defensive tackle. It must be addressed. It must be addressed early. You see, this is the issue that I would have, Jake, with your suggestions. While I love your suggestions, and I'm a big fan of both of the players that you've thrown our way here today, that's living dangerously. It's living dangerously. I think that assets need to be allocated to this problem because it is their biggest problem. And maybe Poona Ford isn't that kind of player, but Walter Nolen at 11 is. And that is a commitment to the bit, which we haven't seen from the Niners. The last 2 years, they've appreciably let defensive tackle get worse and worse and worse. And the manifestation is wildly evident. Their run defense has gone from maybe a bit fraudulent to downright atrocious, and everyone knows it. And when you then think about the flip side of, well, how's their pass rush doing? Not very well, because as you said, you got to eat your vegetables. You have to earn the right to rush the passer, especially in a scheme like that where you have such wide splits.
I will say, I do still really like Malik Collins as a pass rusher. I know he's on the wrong side of 30, but I do think if you limit his role and ask less of him in the run game. I do think he is a really solid pass rusher still.
Mm-hmm.
He's got really violent hands, and the 49ers have often liked to mix it up and have Bosa and Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos out there, or Sam Okuanu. So there's like different mixes and matches of like if they don't get, a total like gap splitter defensive tackle, they have options. That said, I'm saying these are two options where Broughton could be available. I said I would take him in the third round. I think he might be available in like round 4
That'd
or
be
5.
incredible.
Like, I think realistically that's where he could go. And I'm not against double dipping at defensive tackle. I think, or triple dipping, and taking
Right.
Ledbetter and 2 draft picks, because I genuinely think it's that big of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you can fundamentally like redo your defensive line. They're gonna throw a bag at Robert Saleh from reports.
Can we quickly address that? What is you would have to throw a bag at Robert Saleh. I don't see the upside for Robert Saleh in coming back to the 49ers.
No, because you made the point, and I've run it through my head that like just from that's why you're right. You have to throw the bag at Robert Saleh, because when you come back, the defense has to just be downright elite for at least 2 years before he's going to get looked at really for a head coaching job again. It's going to be tough just because he's going back to where he's worked before. And I think there is something to making a different defense work with different personnel. And it would be different personnel.
I understand it's different, but he's not proving anything to the numbskulls who are hiring NFL head coaches. Like, let's not pretend as if we're dealing with people who can break down film who are making these decisions. Like, I know that sounds laughable, but like most NFL owners don't know squat about football. And
the Jets have interviewed, I think, 35 people.
They're run by a 15-year-old, Jake.
Genuinely.
So, like, the idea that Robert Saleh, what's going to happen, because all these guys fancy themselves great business people, even though, like, they inherited the team from their dad who bought it for $40 and a shoe shine in 1923. But we're great business people, even though we've just ridden the market all the way to the top. They're going to say to themselves, oh, well, Robert Saleh, like, what can he do for us that, he couldn't do it for the Jets? And the further away he gets from that Jets job, right now we remember Robert Saleh as, oh, man, he got did dirty by the Jets. Like, it wasn't his fault. And the further away you get, it's just going to be the record. All you're going to have is the empirical data, and you're going to say, the Jets sucked under Robert Saleh. He must not be a very good head coach. Oh, well, what has he done lately? Well, he went back to Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, the same guys who got him a job in the first place, and now he looks like he should get a job again. But again, what's that do? Why wouldn't we be the Jets again? So, listen, Robert Saleh can do whatever he wants with his life. It would be a boon and a massive win for the 49ers if he came back as a defensive coordinator. This is in no way a knock at all on Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator. He is unquestionably the top candidate on the market. But I don't see it for him. And unsolicited advice, don't do it. Don't do it.
Also, if their plan is to just throw a bag at Saleh and wait, I think that's a horrible process.
That's right.
And you should be actively interviewing as many people, not Jets, let me clarify. Not as many people as you can, as many people as like you think could actually do the job or bring something new to the table.
Right.
If that's what you're trying to sell us on, is that you're open to new ideas and all this stuff that you sold us at the end of the year, like maybe go talk to some people who do something a little bit different, or who just are different people than the one guy you've worked with before.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea. Obviously, Robert Saleh is a great defensive coordinator. Maybe talk to some other people. That's all I'm saying.
And listen, when Kyle Shanahan says that they had an opportunity to go out and get somebody better, they weren't wrong. Legitimately, there are 7, 8, 9 options.
Most other candidates are better.
Are markedly better than Nick Sorensen. I'd include Brandon Staley as a better option than Nick Sorensen, because I don't know what Brandon Staley did. I'd like to find out, honestly. Yeah. I know that people will just roll their eyes at that, but like Brandon Staley was a hell of a defensive coordinator for the Chargers. And I don't know what his influence was on the 49ers this past year. It didn't seem like there was much influence on anything this past year when it came to defense. So, I don't know what Brandon Staley did, but we're talking about Jeff Ulbrich. We're talking about Dennis Allen. We're just go down the line. I think Al Golden, I've suggested him time and time again. I think he would be an incredible candidate to be the defensive coordinator. And, of course, Robert Saleh. We'll see where the Niners go, but it doesn't matter who the defensive coordinator is, Jake. They're going to need some big beefy boys, some big squatty boys, some big stumpy boys up the middle.
Get the beef, and everything else will fall into place. This is us, by the way, continuing to fix the spine of the
right.
San Francisco 49ers. We're going to keep this going with a few other positions. We'll get in a linebacker. We'll get into safety. We're going to keep going that direction, and we'll see where it takes us. And then, we'll have some draft stuff that's a little bit more applicable outside of just the 49ers.
Right.
But
We'll give you our big boards.
Yeah, and make sure in the comments, by the way, and if you watched the last video on interior offensive line, make sure if you didn't watch it, go back and watch it.
That's right.
And comment both those videos if you were sold on our pitches, our Sicko Tank pitches. If you were sold by one, some, all of them, let us know. Go wild. Go wild. You're sickos. You're here for a reason. Keep it up.
I appreciate you. I appreciate y'all. And I appreciate big, stumpy boys.
That's right,
Adios.
folks.